Hello, Aries. Welcome, and thank you for being here. It's going to be a general read, so of course everything may not resonate. Take what does and leave the rest. And for more tarot readings after this, please check out my wife's channel, Prophecy3 Tarot She's Review as well. Thank you. All right, let's see what's going on. Hmm. Something on the table, off the table, on the table, off the table. Is something on or off, on or off? Is it doable? Is it manageable, or is it not? What is this that you're kind of energetically sizing up? Let's see. Okay. You should kind of show me that repeatedly. Let's see here, Aries. Keeps jumping around. Like one of those dancing skeletons. Jumping around, jumping around, jumping around. It's weird because it's out of the way, but it's jumping around. Jumpy. A couple more, I'll jump in. So what does it mean to feel something in the bones? All right. Getting right into this, Aries. What you do, show me. There is something here you are trying to kind of finesse. I don't know specifically what this is that you got going on, but you clearly got a lot going on. You energetically are saying exercising thy will. You're saying there is something I want. There's something I want. There's a specific way of how I want to do it, how I want to go about it. It's my way. Like I said, it's the exercising of the will, forcefully kind of pushing your will out there to kind of try and get something done, a specific way of how you want it to be done. The problem is, Aries, is even with what you're kind of up against, even emotionally speaking, like, is it just worth it or not? Emotionally, you're kind of like, no, it's just not worth it. Huh. What is that? You show me it's like this energy of all or nothing, all in or nothing. It's like I want it this way, and if it's not that way, then it's interesting. You're kind of saying you're pushing all your poker chips on the table, like I'm all in. And it's kind of like if it doesn't go your way, like if it's not a winner, you're kind of like, well, then I don't fucking care about it. And it's like, okay, well, um, I understand that to a point, but you're also strongly emphasizing this energy of like you don't care, but you're also kind of like you're like shit. But what else am I gonna do? It's almost kind of like you can exercise your will, the law of cause and effect, right? At the same time, it's like what happens when something does not bend to your will. That's where you're kind of having the difficulty or the trouble. It's like when something does not bend to your will. And what is it? What happens when something doesn't bend? What happens if something's not bending and you still forcefully push at it or try it? Something snaps. Unfortunately, it's sort of like with that type of mentality of the ram, the horns, the prefrontal cortex. If it's like if I cannot break through this barrier, this obstacle, but that is that energetically you're showing me such a full force. It's kind of like a ram going up against a wall, a stone wall. It's like you may be determined, you might be trying to exercise your will upon something, but that wall is still going to be a wall. Even though you show me like, yeah, I just don't care, it just don't matter. It does though. It does matter, and that's the thing. It's like you're realizing like there's a wall there. There's a wall there. Yeah, I get that. I get that. It's like you kind of. I'm not too sure what that is, Aries. Um, you're funny. You're showing me this energy of like you're trying to brush this off and be indifferent to it, but that's the thing. Easier said than done. Like, yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll find another way. I'll find another way, but I don't understand that, Aries. Just because you kind of give me that Mister or Mrs. My Way or the Highway thinking and mindset and perspective. To want to leave your mark or your stamp or your print on the world is one thing. You understand that. To want to leave an impact, to want to leave effect, want a good cause with a good effect. But the problem is there's such a limited kind of perspective or frame of mind in this where it's kind of like it's got to be exact. It's got to be the way you want this. You're going to drive yourself cuckoo. You're going to drive yourself cuckoo. The mindset and the perspective. It's like trying to, push it to the limit. Like you're already playing around in the red. The speedometer's already in the red. Before you know it, your engine's going to give out and start smoking, and it's done. It's toast. It's fried. You're pushing something in the red. You're redlining. There you are, Aries. I seem to got your attention. The problem, yeah, like I said, redlining. You're seeing red now. You're seeing red. Makes me think of the movie James Bond, the intro. The tunnel, the barrel, looking down the barrel, the spirals. And then James Bond walks into the middle of it. He turns to the side, and you hear the pah. And then all of a sudden, the screen starts to drip red, and it starts to shake back and forth. And it's like, 007 gotcha. You tell me this energy of you like that, and that's that energy. That's that's that longhorn sheep energy. You like that challenge. You like the difficulty. You like to push it to the limit and push it to the max and go a little bit overboard. Um, but what happens when it's kind of like and so overboard, so pushing it to the limit? It's kind of like nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. It's kind of like what's that other movie called? It's like going up in flames. It's like what? At least they what they're like. They checked out like doing something that they were passionate about. It's kind of like I like speed racing, for example. And if I die hitting the wall and my car is on fire, then hey, I was going 300 miles an hour down that quarter mile, and hey, I went out in flames, and I went out, and it's kind of like okay, that person was they were a daredevil. That's one way to live life. It's one way to live life. Yeah, you're playing with fire, Aries. The problem is you're playing with such a fire where you don't realize like what it's doing to you. You're overheating. Like I said, you're redlining and you're overheating. That's what that seeing red is all about. Um, you're pushing something too much. You're pushing something too much. You're pushing something too much. It's kind of like, come on, I got to get more power out of this. Come on, I got to get more out of this, and I got to get more out of this. I got to get more, and it's like this energy. You don't realize that you gotta get a leak in your gas tank or your fuel tank. You don't realize this. I'm looking at it though. You have a leak. What is that? What is that? What is this? You're chasing some sort of dragon. You're chasing some sort of dragon, Aries. It's that rush. You're chasing that rush. I mean, you are saying like, I love this shit. I live for this shit. It's like, yeah, you'll probably, 3-letter word as well for this shit. Like I said, that's one way to live your life. To each their own. Again, you show me that drive. You show me the competition. You show me the competition. I live for competition. I live to. You're chasing glory. That's what you're talking about. You're chasing glory. What's that video game? Age of Empires. The Emperor energy. Age of Empires. You're chasing glory. That Emperor energy. That's something. There's the energy of confidently sitting on their throne, the Emperor or the Empress. I don't think the Empress wears a crown. The Emperor does. The Emperor sits on his crown knowing what he's capable of. He doesn't have to go out and prove it or show it to the world. He knows his own capabilities, talents, and gifts. Yes, it's all about in the background the desolate desert, barren land behind him. The molding of their environment and their situation, what they want to kind of create for themselves and leave behind as their legacy. Um, how much more fuel or gas you got left in the tank, Aries? How much more fuel you got? Because everyone knows there's an F and then there's an E. What is that pursuit of glory? I get you. I get you. I go figure. There's the Empress. Yeah. You're saying you want to rule a kingdom. This is the You're saying you want to rule a kingdom. You're kind of energetically showing me kind of Game of Thrones though energy. If you spoiler, if you haven't seen the ending of Game of Thrones, remember I forget what her name is. She was so uncontained with her rage to control that dragon that at the end her lover decided to take her out because she couldn't contain or control herself, to where she started doing these things to the innocents of the village. And it's sort of like, there's an energy of unfortunately what I'm looking at is there's a very fine razor sharp line between ruler and tyrant. And you're dancing on that very fine line, Aries. You're dancing on that very fine line of where you can be so square that it's like, if you go outside that line, there is hell to pay. But as long as you're inside, that's paradise. You're dancing on a fine line, Aries. I understand, like, you just want things to work out. You want to rule. You want to be emperor, empress, whatever it is. But the way you go about it, it's kind of like, What do you want to be remembered for? Do you want to be loved and respected, or do you want to be feared? And there goes the argument of like, well, it's better to be feared than it is loved. It's better to be respected and feared than it is to be loved. Then why are you showing me love? You're showing me this energy of like you want to be a monster. Um, the first card out is the devil energy. The very first card is the devil energy. And that lets you know how much emphasis and oomph and drive and desire is there. And it's sort of like, it makes me think of, speaking of, the lover's energy. The typical Rider-Waite definition or picture and images of the lover's energy is the female, the male or the masculine approaching the female. And behind him, he's leaving a trail of fire and everything is just burning down to the ground to ash. While the feminine shows this energy of like plentiful, bountiful, Capricornian energy of like, look at everything. But the problem is, if you're wanting someone to rule with, they might like their garden the way it is. They might like their kingdom the way it is. But with that energy of like more, everything is just turning to ash. And that's what you don't want, Aries. You don't want the kingdom that you're trying so hard, or the foundation you're trying so hard to lay down for yourself, to turn to ash, because it's kind of like not enough. Not enough. That's that uncontained desire. That's that uncontained passion. That's that uncontained fire where it's like, damn. You can utilize it. You can utilize it, but you're kind of saying like, I'm looking for my other. I'm looking for my match. I'm looking for my soulmate. I'm looking for my twin. I'm looking for someone to sit on my side on their throne as well. You can't have a kingdom. You can't rule a kingdom if it goes up in flames. That's what I'm saying. And trust me, you don't want to be a tyrant. They never last. They never last. It's always like, it's always like the least expected one that brings down the tyrant. It's like that little guy, that little person, that little warrior, that little, that person took down that person. It's like, yeah, because they were the hero of the story. It's always the one it's always the character in those scenes that's least expected that takes down the bad guy or the villain. It's always the person least expected. There's a tower. That's what I'm talking about. You show me this energy of, jeez Louise. Oh my goodness. Jeez. That's life. That's life's lesson, Aries. That's life's lesson. That tower. Like I said, the first card is the devil. I'll leave it at the last card of the tower, because everyone knows the devil is doing something or creating something or giving yourself over to a mission or a goal or a desire that's toxic. That shouldn't be standing. That shouldn't be standing. And unfortunately, this is one of those situations where even when you try to slow your roll or slow your pace, unfortunately, that's when that tower takes place. That's unfortunately Lucifer getting kicked out of heaven. It's like, fuck, the false paradise I was creating for myself was all a reality or fantasy. I was just playing pretend. It's like I want to be ruler, but it's like it shows up as kind of like little king, little queen energy. It's like some people say like, oh, I don't know, I'm renting an apartment, but I'm playing king of the castle or queen of the castle. And it's like, do you own it? No. And then people be like, no, they might argue the fact like, well, I'm still paying rent for it. And it's like, yeah, but you don't own it. Your perspective of self is out of context. You can't, what's that movie? Under the Silver Lake. It's like that spoiler alert. There's a scene in that where there's a homeless guy who's wearing a cardboard crown. A cardboard crown. And I was like, yeah, he's homeless. So it's like, what is he king of? The earth? He's homeless. But he's wearing a bunch of rags and he knows some things. good meaning to that movie. At the same time, it's like, what do you got though? What do you got? What happens after the Tower? The Wheel of Fortune. That's what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, Aries, whatever this rock up, shake up, earthquake energy is, I can't even give you a definition of what that is. That is an energy of the eye in the sky sees something that should not be, and then the next energy is something higher up, but yet at the same time, as above, so below. So I don't know what that balance is. That is karmic. That is karmic, Aries. It's like, not today, Satan. Not today. So Aries, just a heads up. When it comes to the mind and the perspective, you may want something, you may desire something, but to try and forcefully exert your will upon a situation will lead to your demise if unchecked. Goodbye.